What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. We are back doing another rugby preview today. It's going to be game 3 of the first round of the Autumn Nations Cup. It's going to be England versus Georgia. I'm going to play as Georgia in the background. Georgia in this game are pretty terrible, so I might actually lose this one. But we're going to give it a go. Let's jump into the game and let's check out these teams. Alrighty, let's get this game underway. So, I think we'll start off talking about the England squad because there's a lot to talk about in this one. So, Eddie Jones just announced his team today. That's going to be going up against Georgia. England are going to go into this heavy favourites. Georgia didn't have the best game against Scotland in their warm-ups before Scotland finished off their Six Nations against Wales. England, of course, then go on to win the Six Nations, so they'll be feeling very confident going into this. So, let's have a look at this England team. So, in the forwards, the front three, Ellis Genge, Jamie George, Will Stewart. What a front three. They're going to be looking very powerful with this. Going up against a team like Georgia, you definitely want to have strong forwards, and I think that as a front three is going to be very strong. Jamie George is a very good player and has done a lot of work at hooker. I think he's going to do a good job in that front three. Ellis Genge is just a bit of a rhino with the ball. He's a powerful runner. I think that's going to be very good in terms of just general gameplay, and then also in scrum time, in ruck time is going to be very useful. Charlie Ewells gets to make his first actual start for the England team, which is going to be really exciting for him. Looking forward to seeing him getting some proper game time in. Joe Laundry moves to number 5. He's very good player, very good in the lineouts. But the big thing about him moving to number 5 here is that Maro Itoje is moving back to number 6, going back to flanker. Maro Itoje can play flanker, or he also plays 4 or 5, or sometimes does play 6 when Eddie Jones wants him to. One of the big talking points for this game is Eddie Jones has started releasing ideas about creating a new breed of rugby players called hybrid players, where he wants to try and get players to play in more than one general position. This includes having backs play as forwards and forwards play as backs, having the sort of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 be completely interchangeable so that it would be more useful when you have injuries or yellow cards. And to be honest, I think that's a really good move. That's sort of what New Zealand do already, except they just really have sort of a talent to it rather than having to learn the ability to do it. Most of the New Zealand players seem to play multiple positions. If you look at the New Zealand backline especially, all of them just play everywhere, and that's why New Zealand are so good. Eddie Jones has messed about with this when he was playing in Japan. And of course they went on to beat South Africa in the World Cup, so they're looking very good. I was going to be interested to see how Eddie Jones manages to do this. So Itoje moves to number 6, Jack Willis at number 7. Tom Curry's got moved to the bench for this game, so I think Jack Willis will be looking for a good game. Billy Vunipola is the set number 8. England love having their Billy Vunipola at 8. Again, strong ball carrier, just the crash ball man. Takes about 3 men to tackle him. He'll be doing very well. I think this forward 8 is looking very strong going up against Georgia, who are a big forward team, who love their scrums, love their rucks. You need to be going heavy, and I think this is a very heavy England forward side. So they're going to be wanting to match Georgia, and then the backs, of course, will be wanting to put on a bit of speed, get round some lines and manage to get a few tries in there. But I think as a forward 8, I think that's doing very well, and it's nice to be able to see some people going to be playing in different positions. Going to be a bit of more exciting England, I think, going into the future. Having people that can play multiple positions at any one time, I think it's going to be very useful for them. Let's take a look at the backs. Ben Young's going in at 9, of course, is doing very well. Seems to be the number 1 choice now for Eddie Jones's England side. Willie Hines hasn't been in for a little while now. I think he had an injury just before coming back into the Six Nations, so he won't be able to have any time back in. I think that's why Dan Robson's going to be making a bit of an appearance later on in the game. Owen Farrell still at 10. Of course, there's no George Ford yet. George Ford, of course, is still out, so Owen Farrell's going to be retaining that number 10 position. I mean, he can play 10 or 12, so he's very good, but actually putting Owen Farrell back at 10 allows them to have a bit more experimental in the centre, so that'll be useful for them. Johnny May taking his left wing. Johnny May, another staple of the England team. I'm quite surprised actually how many big names they've put on for this game. I thought they would put a bit of a B team on to face Georgia, with looks to try and keep as many players non-injured before coming up against Wales and Ireland. But they seem to be giving them the good respect that Georgia deserve. I think they know they can turn up, so they put on quite a heavy side anyway. Henry Slade, who's playing very well, especially at club level. A very good footballer, a very speedy runner, very good attacking linesman. can sort of interchange a little bit. So they've got Owen Farrell moved to the 10, but Henry Slade sort of does the same thing as Owen Farrell in terms of game kicking. Good positional kicks to try and get behind the back line. I think it's a good move. And Ollie Lawrence gets to go in at number 13. Looking forward to seeing a bit more from Ollie Lawrence. Very, very fast player. Going to be looking forward to see him at that number 13 jersey. Jonathan Joseph has gone back to his right wing. They've lost Anthony Watson. I don't think they'll be super impressed with Anthony Watson's performance that he had in the Six Nations. He definitely could have done a little bit better, I think. Again, it was a bit of an issue. He's a very good player, but they just didn't give him the ball in the right space, I was finding. He's a very, very quick player. He's got a very good step that allows him to get round players, but they unfortunately just don't really allow him to have enough room, enough time on the ball for him to do anything super exciting. And Elliot Daly comes back at number 15. George Furbank is no longer in this starting 15. Elliot Daly's back. We all know how good Elliot Daly is. Not just at the running and fullback positional play, but also has an absolute cannon of a boot. He can hammer that ball back down. I think for a team like Georgia, who England can put under pressure, keep them in their 22, knowing that Georgia are going to have to kick in order to get a bit safe. I think having Elliot Daly there to catch the ball at the back and do some good counter running will be very, very useful. It's a strong back line. England are taking no chances with this. They know they want to come away from this with as many points as they can. I think it's definitely going to be a winning side, even just looking at this front 15, let alone the finishers. Moving on to the replacements. We've got Tom Dunn, Maka Vunipola and Kyle Sinclair. It's just as strong of a front three in the world of rugby as you could probably ask for, really. Marco Vunipola's been doing very, very good, as well as Kyle Sinclair. Has really sort of toned down his anger issues. Kyle Sinclair not giving away as many penalties, really improving his game very well. Ben Earl and Tom Curry are going to be coming on as the other replacement forwards. Tom Curry, I think, will probably do quite well. He can come in at that 6, 7 or 8 position whenever they need him to. Dan Robson, of course, going to be following up after Ben Youngs. I think Ben Youngs might play half a game, and I think Dan Robson will come on. Again, very good scrum half. I think he'll do well. Max Malins gets to come on at fly half, hopefully at some point. He's been doing very well at club level. He's currently with Bristol. I think he's no longer with Saracens. I think he's on loan, but he's playing very well. It's going to be nice to see him get a chance. Obviously, George Ford not in the mix here, so gives him a bit of a chance. And then finally, to finish off, Joe Marchant, who has played a little bit, but I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more from him. I think it's quite a good team setup from England here. I think they've got a good starting 15, and then they're allowing a few lower cap players to come in on the finishers, get some international experience before going on playing those bigger games versus Ireland and Wales, putting them on against a second tier nation like Georgia. I think it's a good move. So let's have a look at what Georgia have to offer in their team. So when it comes to the Georgia team, guys, this is where I'm going to show off a bit of a lack of knowledge. I'm a big rugby fan. I never claimed to be any sort of professional analysis of of rugby games. I'm just a big fan of the international rugby scene, and that's why I do these videos, just for a bit of fun. I don't follow the Georgian rugby particularly closely. The last game I saw them play was the Georgia-Scotland game, and since then in my notes I can see they've made 8 changes to the starting 15, which means I'm going to have a little bit of a lack of knowledge on this team, so I'm really sorry for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chuck the team on screen now for you. And what I'll do is I'll just quickly run through some of the players I do know and some of their abilities and so on, and then give an overall view on what I think of the game. So yeah, they've made 8 changes to this team from that Scotland game, so they're obviously trying to switch it up. That means they've actually got a bit of depth in this Georgian team, which is the first time in a little while I've been able to say that about Georgia. So starting at the top, we've got Nariashvili, who actually played very, very well against Scotland. He had a very good game. There was no scrums dropped on his side. He's a very strong ruck player, but he did very, very well. The next one is Kirdi Koshvilli. I believe is how it's pronounced, is number 5. He is a very, very tall man. He had a good line-out game, actually. He actually managed to do very disruptive play. Don't know if he'll be able to compete against people like a Toje, but it's nice to see that he's getting on quite well. Gorgodze, who is number 8, who's a big, big ball carrier, actually was probably one of the few players who was making a good deal of distance in that Scotland game. He was very, very impressive. I think would probably be in a starting team for some higher tier 1 nations if he had the ability, but he's playing very, very well for Georgia. The fly half, Abzandzadze, I believe is how it's pronounced. I'm going to do that for all these names, I'm sorry guys. He played very well, actually. He did have quite a few good kicks. There was a couple of good penalties where they were kicking to touch. They actually got some good depth on. This Georgia seemed quite willing to go for playing the game rather than just stealing the 3 points when they can do, which is nice to see, and it'd be nice to see them do the same thing against England. And then the only one after that is Tabut Satse, who plays on the right wing, number 14 there. He was probably one of the only other players that I actually saw play. He's a very quick guy. He seemed to do a lot of things, when I was noticing in the Scotland game, he just seemed to run at the player. There didn't seem to be a great deal of sidestepping from him. If he managed to make a bit of a break and there was a one-on-one man, rather than trying to beat the man, he just seemed to try and power through. I think if he can work on a bit of a sidestep, he might be able to do a little bit better. But from the starting team, I believe that's all I can say, unfortunately, guys. Some of the bench did actually play in the Scotland game. Breg Vadze, who was the number 2, he played at hooker last week, he's now moved to the bench, allowing Koshvilli to have a go at the starting hooker position. He might be good, he might be bad. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of knowledge. But one person I can say that did very well last week was Lobzandzidze, who is on the bench for this one. He's the replacement scrum half. He actually had a good game against Scotland. I was very impressed with him. I'm interested to see why they've swapped him out for Aprasidze. I don't know a lot about him. But the other number 9 played very, very well, so I've no doubt that'll probably be a 50-minute, 60-minute swap. They'll put him back on. He obviously seems like a little bit more of an experienced scrum half from what I saw of the Scotland game. I'm not expecting this Georgian team to do an enormous amount of damage to England. I think England are one we going in there, set a bit of a precedent for playing very, very well and getting a good number of points on the board. But it'd be nice to see Georgia do a little bit better than they did against Scotland. It was quite underwhelming. I thought the Scotland game was going to be a little bit closer than what it was. Scotland are quite consistently good at the minute, so it's a bit hard on Georgia maybe. But it's nice to know that Georgia have the depth here to not only create a 23-man squad, I think in total they've got about 28 players that have a very consistent swapping ability between them. So, I mean, it's nice to see that Georgia are up and coming a little bit, but I can see England taking this one. My prediction for this one is probably going to be England to win. I'm going to say by about 35 points. Hopefully Georgia can hold it back together a little bit, but let me know what you guys think. If you've got a bit more information on this Georgian team, make sure you drop it down in the comments. I'm looking forward to watching some of the autumn internationals, especially to get to learn a little bit about the Georgian rugby union team, because I don't really know a great deal. If you're enjoying these sorts of previews, guys, make sure you drop the video a like, and to keep up to date with all of our previews as we're putting them out about this Autumn Nations Cup, make sure you subscribe to the channel just to keep up to date with all the videos as they're coming out. I'll see you all next time, guys. Bye-bye.